My siblings organized a surprise anniversary bash for our parents, texting, "Don't bother showing. You'd ruin the vibe." I'd covered the hall and band. I let them set up, then canceled the vendors remotely, watching the chaos unfold via live stream from home. I, 34M, never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd sabotage my own parents' anniversary party. But then again, I never thought my siblings would become the kind of people they turned into either. The text came through on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports at my desk. My sister had created a group chat with everyone except me, then apparently added me by accident, because the message that popped up made it clear I wasn't supposed to see it. She was telling everyone about the surprise 40th anniversary party they were planning for our parents. The venue was booked, the band was hired, invitations were going out. Then came the kicker. She told everyone not to mention it to me, because I'd probably ruined the whole vibe anyway. I stared at that message for a solid minute. My younger brother chimed in with a laughing emoji, saying that was probably for the best since I always made everything awkward. My other sister agreed, adding that mom and dad would have a better time if I just stayed home. The thing is, I'm the one who paid for that venue. I'm the one who booked that band. 6 months ago, my mother had mentioned wanting to do something special for their anniversary, and I'd immediately started making arrangements. I'd put down a deposit on the nicest event hall in town, the one overlooking the lake that she'd always loved. I'd hired the jazz band that played at their wedding 4 decades ago, tracked them down through 3 different connections, and paid extra to get them to reunite for one night. I'd done all of this quietly, planning to surprise everyone, but I hadn't told my siblings about any of it. Why would I? We barely spoke anymore. The rift had been growing for years, widening into a chasm I couldn't cross even if I wanted to. It started when our father had his first heart attack 5 years back. I was the one who rearranged my entire life, taking a leave from work to stay with them for 3 months. I was the one sitting in hospital waiting rooms, managing medications, driving to appointments, helping my mother through her panic attacks at 2 in the morning. My siblings visited twice. They sent flowers and made phone calls. But when it came to actually showing up, to doing the hard and unglamorous work of caring for aging parents, they were ghosts. Then came the financial stuff. Dad's medical bills piled up despite insurance. I covered what I could without making a big deal about it. When their mortgage was at risk, I paid it off. When mom needed a new car because theirs died, I bought it. I never asked for recognition or repayment. These were my parents. You don't keep score. But my siblings didn't know about any of this either. My parents, proud as they were, never told them. They thanked me privately and asked me not to mention it to the others because they didn't want to make anyone feel bad. I respected that wish, even though it meant my siblings continued to see me as the distant, workaholic son who barely made time for family. The narrative they'd constructed about me was entirely false, but I'd let it stand because correcting it felt petty. I had a demanding career in finance, sure, and I wasn't married or giving them grandchildren like my siblings were, but I was there when it mattered. Or so I thought. Apparently, being there when it mattered didn't count if nobody knew about it. I sat with that group chat open for the rest of the afternoon, watching them plan my parents' party with my money. They discussed decorations and menu options, and who would give speeches. My sister was coordinating everything, playing the role of devoted daughter orchestrating this beautiful celebration. They were all so excited, so pleased with themselves for pulling this together. Not one of them wondered how the venues got booked or how the band got hired. My sister had called the venue to confirm details, and they'd simply confirmed everything was set. She probably thought she'd booked it herself months ago and forgotten. The band's manager had communicated everything through email, and somehow those emails had ended up in her inbox instead of mine. Probably because I'd CC'd her initially when I was trying to loop everyone in on planning before I realized they weren't interested in coordinating with me. They'd literally taken over my surprise party and excluded me from it. The rational part of my brain said I should just tell them. Send a message to the group explaining that I'd already arranged everything, that this was my gift to our parents, and that of course I'd be attending. We could all celebrate together like a normal family. But I wasn't feeling particularly rational. I was feeling tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being the one who did everything behind the scenes while they took credit for showing up at the last minute with a casserole and a hug. Tired of biting my tongue to keep the peace. An idea formed, dark and satisfying. I could let them think they'd planned everything. Let them send out invitations and coordinate schedules and feel proud of themselves. Let them show up on the day of the party, ready to surprise mom and dad with this incredible celebration they'd put together. And then, right when everything was supposed to start, I could pull the plug. It was petty. It was vindictive. It was absolutely not the high road. I spent 3 days wrestling with it. I barely slept, playing out scenarios in my head. The angel on my shoulder told me to be the bigger person, to rise above it, to remember that this party was about my parents, not about my hurt feelings. The devil on my shoulder reminded me of every time I'd been overlooked, every sacrifice that went unacknowledged, every family gathering where I felt like an afterthought. The devil won. I didn't respond to the group chat. I let myself be quietly removed from it a day later. Someone must have realized I'd been added by mistake. Fine by me. I watched from the outside as my sister sent updates to everyone else. The party was set for Saturday at 6 in the evening. Cocktail attire. She'd arranged for our parents' best friends to help get them to the venue under some pretense. On Monday, I confirmed with the venue that everything was still under my name and my credit card. Same with the band, the caterer, the florist, and the photographer I'd hired. All of it traced back to me, not to any of my siblings. They'd been coordinating details, but they hadn't actually booked or paid for anything. On Wednesday, I set up alerts on my phone. The venue had security cameras accessible through their client portal, a feature they offered so people could check on setup progress for their events. I logged in and confirmed I could view the main hall from multiple angles. Perfect. On Friday night, I got a text from my mother asking if I was coming to dinner with them on Saturday. Just something casual, she said, at that nice restaurant downtown. I told her I had work stuff, but would try to stop by later. She sent back a heart emoji. My chest tightened with guilt, but I pushed it down. Saturday arrived with clear skies and comfortable temperatures. Perfect party weather. I worked from home that morning, trying to focus on emails, but mostly watching the clock. At 2 in the afternoon, I opened my laptop and logged into the venue's security feed. The main hall was empty but already decorated with the flowers I'd ordered. White roses and hydrangeas, my mother's favorites. At 3, people started arriving. My sister showed up first with her husband and kids, directing people like a general commanding troops. The caterers arrived with racks of food. The band started setting up their equipment on the small stage. My brother came next with his wife, carrying a banner they'd made that said 40 years of love. They strung it across the back wall, stepping back to admire their work. I sat on my couch, laptop open, watching them bustle around my party. At 4:30, guests started trickling in. Aunts and uncles, family friends, neighbors I recognized from growing up. My siblings greeted everyone at the door, accepting compliments on what a wonderful job they'd done organizing everything. My sister literally curtsied at one point. I had to close my laptop for a minute to collect myself. At 5, I made the first call. The venue manager picked up on the second ring. I explained that there had been a family emergency and I needed to cancel the event immediately. She was concerned, asking if everything was okay, if there was anything she could do. I kept my voice steady and apologetic. These things happen, I said. I understood there would be cancellation fees. That was fine, but I needed everyone out of the venue within the next 30 minutes. She asked if I wanted her to make the announcement or if I preferred to do it myself. I told her to handle it however she saw fit. She said she'd go speak with the party organizers right away. I reopened the laptop. Through the camera feed, I watched the venue manager enter the hall and approach my sister. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see my sister's face transform from confused to shocked to panicked. She started shaking her head, gesturing wildly. The venue manager maintained her professional composure, showing my sister something on her tablet, probably the booking confirmation in my name. My brother joined the conversation, then my other sister. All 3 of them were talking over each other, clearly trying to argue their case. The venue manager remained calm, but firm. Other staff members began approaching the caterers and band, clearly informing them of the situation. I picked up my phone and made the second call. The band leader answered with background noise of them warming up. I apologized profusely and explained the same story. Family emergency. Need to cancel. So sorry for the inconvenience. He was gracious about it, saying he understood and hoping everything would be okay. I assured him he'd be paid in full for his time, plus extra for the last-minute cancellation. The third call went to the catering company. Same story, same apologies, same promises of full payment. The woman I spoke with was less understanding. They'd already prepared everything, but she agreed to pack up when I offered a 50% bonus on top of the cancellation fee. Back to the laptop. The scene in the venue had shifted to chaos. The caterers were packing up their stations. The band was breaking down equipment. Guests stood around in confused clusters, asking what was happening. My siblings were in the center of it all, my sister on her phone frantically calling someone, probably trying to call me, but I'd silenced notifications from family members for the day. At 5:20, my brother apparently figured out he could call the venue directly. I watched him talking on his phone while gesturing at the venue manager, who'd returned with the tablet again. She let him see the booking details, and I saw the exact moment he read my name. His face went pale. He showed the screen to my sisters. They stood there for a long moment, the three of them staring at the tablet like it might change what it said. Then my older sister looked directly at one of the security cameras. I didn't know if she knew I could see her, but it felt like we locked eyes across the digital divide. Her expression was a mix of realization and something else, fear, maybe, or guilt. The guests were being ushered out. People gathered their things, still confused but compliant. My parents' friends were trying to figure out how to handle the situation. Should they still bring my parents to dinner? What would they say? The whole surprise was ruined now anyway. By 5:45, the venue was empty except for my siblings and the venue manager. I watched them have what looked like an intense conversation. My sister was crying. My brother had his head in his hands. The youngest sister paced back and forth, phone pressed to her ear. At 6 o'clock, my parents would have been arriving to their surprise party. Instead, they were probably sitting at a restaurant wondering why their kids had all canceled dinner at the last minute. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence of my apartment. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel was there, but it was smaller than I'd imagined. Mostly I felt hollow. My phone started ringing at 6:15. My sister. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Voicemail. Then my brother tried. Voicemail. Then my other sister. Voicemail. They called in rotation for the next hour, leaving increasingly desperate messages. The first few were angry. How could I do this? What was wrong with me? This was about our parents, not about whatever grudge I was holding. Then they shifted to confused. Why didn't I tell them I'd booked everything? This was all a misunderstanding. We could fix this. Finally, they turned to pleading. We needed to talk. This was serious. Family was more important than whatever point I was trying to make. I listened to each voicemail once, then deleted them. At 7:30, my mother called. That one I almost answered. But I knew if I heard her voice, I'd crumble. I'd explain everything and apologize and somehow end up being the bad guy who ruined the party out of spite. So I let it go to voicemail too. Her message was short. She said she'd heard there was some confusion about the party, and she just wanted to make sure I was okay. She loved me. Could I please call her back? I put the phone face down on the coffee table and went to bed, even though it wasn't even 8 o'clock. Update 1. I woke up Sunday morning to 47 text messages and 12 missed calls. I made coffee and read through them systematically. My siblings had apparently come clean to our parents about everything. Well, their version of everything. According to the group chat I was now mysteriously re-added to, they'd explained that there had been a miscommunication about the party planning, and unfortunately the venue had to cancel due to an emergency. They were so sorry. They tried to fix it, but couldn't reach me. They'd reschedule something soon. My mother sent a separate message saying she understood these things happen and she appreciated the thought. She asked again if I was okay and if I wanted to come over for dinner tonight. My father, who rarely texted, sent a single line asking me to call him when I had a chance. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I sent an email to all the vendors I'd hired, confirming that they'd all been compensated as promised. Everyone replied acknowledging payment and thanking me for being understanding about the cancellation. Professional courtesy, even in the face of my completely unprofessional behavior. Around noon, my brother showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole as he knocked, waited, knocked again. He called my phone while standing outside my door. I watched it ring on my coffee table and watched him listen to it go to voicemail. He stood there for 5 minutes before finally leaving. I heard him tell someone on the phone that I wasn't answering and he didn't think I was home. I was done hiding, but I wasn't ready to face them yet. I needed them to sit with this for a while longer. I needed them to really think about what had happened and why. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. My phone stayed on silent in my desk drawer. I focused on spreadsheets and client calls and anything that wasn't my family. My assistant asked if everything was okay. I must have looked rough, and I told her I was fine, just didn't sleep well. At lunch, I finally opened my phone. 63 total messages now. Most from my siblings, increasingly frantic. A few more from my mother, staying gentle but clearly worried. Still just the one from my father. There was also a new message in the sibling group chat, sent that morning. My sister had written a long paragraph about how we needed to have a family meeting to discuss what happened. She suggested we all meet at our parents' house Tuesday evening. She said some hurtful things had been said and done on all sides, and we needed to clear the air for Mom and Dad's sake. Some hurtful things had been said and done on all sides. Interesting way to frame it. I typed out a response. I'll be there Tuesday at 7. The group chat exploded. Relief, anger, confusion, all at once. My sister said we'd see me then, and please could we all just be civil. Tuesday evening arrived faster than I expected. I drove to my parents' house on autopilot, my rehearsed speech dissolving in my head with every mile. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had nothing prepared. I just have to see how it played out. Everyone was already there. I could see them through the front window, gathered in the living room. I sat in my car for a moment, watching my family like a stranger looking in. Then I got out and walked to the door. My mother answered before I could knock. She pulled me into a hug immediately, holding on longer than usual. She didn't say anything, just squeezed me tight before letting go and leading me inside. The living room fell silent when I entered. My 3 siblings sat on the couch together, a united front. My father was in his usual chair, looking older than I remembered. My mother gestured for me to sit in the remaining empty chair, then settled onto the arm of my father's seat. My sister spoke first. She said she wanted to start by acknowledging that things had gotten out of hand and everyone was upset, but we were family and we needed to work through this together. She said she was sorry if I felt excluded from the party planning, but my reaction was completely disproportionate and honestly unhinged. Unhinged. There it was. My brother jumped in, saying he didn't understand why I'd sabotaged the party instead of just talking to them. It was supposed to be about Mom and Dad, not about me. I let them talk. They took turns explaining their perspective, building their case. I'd overreacted. I'd been petty. I'd hurt our parents by ruining what should have been a beautiful celebration. Yes, maybe the text was thoughtless, but it didn't warrant this level of retaliation. When they finally ran out of steam, everyone looked at me expectantly. I asked them a simple question. Did any of them know who actually booked the venue and the band? My sister said she'd done it, obviously. She'd been coordinating everything for months. I asked her to check her credit card statements. Show me the charges for the venue deposit, the band booking fee, any of it. She got defensive, saying she didn't need to prove anything to me. My brother backed her up, saying this wasn't about money. But my mother was looking at me with a strange expression. She asked quietly if I'd booked everything. I nodded. The room shifted. My siblings started talking over each other. That didn't make sense. They'd confirmed everything. They'd been emailing back and forth with the vendors. My sister pulled out her phone to show the email threads. I explained that I'd booked everything 6 months ago as a surprise. I'd CC'd my sister initially to try to coordinate, which was probably why she'd been included on the vendor emails. She'd taken over the communication and assumed she'd done the booking herself. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father sat forward in his chair. I told them about the deposit I'd put down, the amount I'd paid to reunite the band from their wedding, the photographer I'd hired to capture everything. I pulled up the original booking confirmations on my phone and passed it around. Each of my siblings looked at the dates, all 6 months ago, all in my name, all charged to my credit card. My sister's face drained of color. She asked why I didn't tell them. I asked her why she told everyone not to invite me, because I'd ruined the vibe. Silence. I said I'd spent 5 years being the invisible son. The one who took care of things quietly, while everyone else got to be the fun siblings who showed up with grandkids and casseroles. I'd paid off their mortgage when they were about to lose the house. I'd bought Mom's car when hers died. I'd covered thousands in medical bills. I'd done it all without asking for credit because it was the right thing to do and because Mom and Dad asked me not to make it a big deal. My siblings were staring at me now. My mother had tears streaming down her face. I told them that when I saw that text, when I saw them taking over my surprise party and actively excluding me, something broke. I didn't want credit for the money. I didn't need thank you speeches. I just wanted to be included. I wanted to matter. My voice cracked on that last word. I hadn't meant to let emotion through, but there it was. I told them the party was my gift to our parents, and watching them claim it as their own while simultaneously telling me not to bother showing up felt like every invisible sacrifice being thrown back in my face. So yes, I canceled it. Yes, it was petty. Yes, it hurt Mom and Dad, which I regretted more than they could know. But I needed them to feel what it was like to have something important taken away. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then my father spoke for the first time. He said he'd asked us not to mention the financial help to the others because he was embarrassed. He'd spent his whole life as the provider, and having his son bail him out made him feel like a failure. He'd never meant for it to become this wedge between us. My mother added that they'd both assumed my siblings knew how much I did because it seemed obvious. They'd never realized we'd all been operating in separate realities. My youngest sister was crying now too. She said she didn't know. None of them knew. If they had, they would have included me in everything. They'd thought I was too busy with work to care about family stuff. My brother said the text was wrong and he was sorry. They'd gotten into an echo chamber of resentment because I always seemed distant, but that wasn't an excuse. My older sister asked if I could forgive them. I sat with that question. Could I? I didn't know yet. The hurt was still there, raw and present. But so was love. Complicated, messy, frustrating love. I told them I'd canceled the party because I was angry and hurt, and I'd let that override what should have mattered most, celebrating our parents. That was on me. But I also told them that moving forward, things had to change. I couldn't keep being invisible. I couldn't keep being the safety net they forgot existed. We talked for 3 more hours. It wasn't neat or clean. There were more tears, some raised voices, a lot of painful truths. My siblings apologized for taking me for granted. I apologized for the way I'd retaliated. My parents apologized for inadvertently creating this situation by asking me to keep secrets. By the end of the night, we'd agreed to reschedule the anniversary party as a family. All of us, together. I'd handle rebooking the venue and band. My siblings would handle the logistics and guest coordination. We'd actually communicate this time. As I was leaving, my mother grabbed my hand. She told me she'd always known I was there, even when no one else seemed to notice. She said she was proud of me, not for the money or the gestures, but for showing up when it was hard. And she was sorry that being quiet about it had hurt me so badly. I drove home that night feeling lighter than I had in years. It wasn't fixed. Nothing was magically repaired by one conversation. But it was a start. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would mean the world to us.